Now, studying biblical prophecy is one of the most rewarding and compelling pursuit a believer can pursue, actually. It is always a blessing to see how world events continue to unfold in ways that reflect the path outlined in these prophecies. For the last at least 15 years, one region of the world has increasingly begun to resemble the prophecies found in Daniel chapter 2 and in Daniel chapter 7, as well as those echoed in by John in Revelation chapter 13. And that region actually is Europe. Daniel speaks of four world dominant empire that would stretch from his own time, that is 2,500 years ago, all the way until the second coming of the Messiah. Three of those rose and fell exactly as he foretold: Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. And the fourth empire, the Roman Empire, actually stands apart. It rose as Daniel predicted, but it has never yet fallen in the dramatic, prophetic way the scriptures describe. According to the prophets, its final destruction will open the way for the Messianic era, an event that has not yet occurred. From Daniel, this same fourth empire appears again in the book of Revelation. John sees it revived at the end time, at the end of the ages, now empowered by all the strength and characteristics of the previous empires combined. And it rises in the same geographical sphere where the Roman Empire once dominated, that is Europe. This is why many students of prophecy speak of the coming revived Roman Empire, a renewed European power bloc that will play a decisive role in the last days. And as we follow current events in this region of Europe, two major developments stand out. Developments that strongly suggest that the full rise of the end-time empire may be closer than we think. First, Europe now finds itself increasingly compelled to strengthen and consolidate in response to the growing threat from what the Bible identifies as the King of the North, the leader of the coming war of Gog and Magog, commonly understood as Russia. Just a couple of weeks ago, on November 20th, 2025, Russia's President Putin warned the European Union, and he said, if you want war, then Russia will defeat you. This statement reflects the long-standing and deepening tensions in the region, especially with the war in Ukraine. As a result, Europe has been rapidly strengthening and rearming itself in preparation for a possible conflict, a conflict that is to come, in fact. The second major development, now appearing almost daily in European news, is the escalating immigration crisis and the growing influence of foreign cultures and religions, particularly Islam. This situation has propelled many right-wing parties to rise sharply in popularity, making it highly probable that upcoming governments will be formed by these parties. At present, right-wing governments are leading in the polls in France, in Germany, and the UK. And in recent years, these parties have already gained power in countries such as Italy and Finland, to name just two of them. Across Europe, nearly all far-right parties share one core priority: closing borders, limiting immigration, deporting those who are in the country illegally, and strengthening the military powers of Europe, an ideal setup for the Antichrist. Consider one example: France, home of the largest Muslim population in Western Europe. After the 2022 election, the right-wing National Rally Party that is led by Marine Le Pen surged from 8 to 89 seats in the National Assembly, a historic breakthrough. Furthermore, public debates in France continue to be dominated by issues related to Islam, religious veils, and concerns over radicalization. All of these points to a Europe that increasingly resembles the contour described by the prophets concerning these last days. And these trends may also signal the beginning of the decline of Islam's influence in Europe and also in the Americas, and the early stages of the rise of the Antichrist system. While end-time prophecies do include Arab nations, their role is primarily centered around the Middle East and the immediate vicinities of Israel, as seen in Psalm 83, or in Amos chapter 1, and also in the war of Gog and Magog. However, Scriptures assigns the greater end-time influence to the descendants of Japheth, namely Europe, along with the Americas and parts of Asia. The Americas, though not directly mentioned in prophecies, naturally share in Europe's prophetic trajectory, given that they were largely shaped and built by European civilizations. Here in Quebec, our own government, though not a right-wing government, has passed Bill number 9, which reinforces secularism and which restricts religious practices, requiring municipalities to authorize gatherings such as prayer in public places, including parks. This legislation was triggered by groups of Muslims praying in the streets of Montreal and blocking traffic, as you must have seen in the news. But instead of addressing that specific issue, the law goes much further, banning all public prayers without permission and even forbidding government workers from simply wearing a kippah or other religious items. This bill was passed unanimously by all parties in a vote. Again, taken together, all these developments point to a world shifting exactly in the direction the prophets described, aligning itself with the very condition that will precede the second coming of Christ. The development of these prophecies, especially the coming world power based in Europe, reminds us of the kind of bamboo in Asia called the Chinese moso bamboo. I don't know if you heard about it. When you plant the seed and water it, nothing seems to happen for years. Year 1, nothing breaks the ground. Year 2, still nothing. Year 3, the soil looks unchanged. Year 4, people begin to think the seed is dead. It is only in the 5th year that something astonishing happens. In just 6 weeks, the bamboo suddenly shoots up to 80 feet into the air. People who walk by and see it grow in 6 weeks say, "Whoa, this bamboo grows so fast." Watch Europe. Bible prophecies tell us that it will grow and grow very fast. As opposed to the bamboo, the prophecies concerning the Antichrist and the Western allies, while its root system was apparently dormant for the last 2,000 years, now it seems ready to rise rapidly. All this tells us, by the way, that Yeshua, Jesus, is coming very, very soon. As for Israel, by the way, none of these developments point to an easy future. No matter how one interprets these trends, Israel does not emerge as a winner, at least for now. Whether it is the decline of Islamic influence in the West or the growing power of the Western Bloc, the prophet spoke of a time when hostility towards the Jewish people will escalate dramatically, rising to a level unprecedented in history. Jesus says that. It is Amos also the prophet who said concerning the tribulation period, he says, "Alas," he says, "you who are longing for the day of the Lord, for what purpose will the day of the Lord be to you? It will be darkness and not light, as when a man flees from a lion and a bear meets him and goes home, leans his hand against the wall, and a snake bites him. Though this time of darkness will be brief, it will be intense." This is why we proclaim the message of salvation in Yeshua Mashiach, the only refuge and the only way to escape these days. In the midst of rising turmoil, the call of Scriptures is clear. Seek Jesus. Seek the Messiah. While he's coming to stop the coming wars, one can meet him even now and find protection and refuge in him. Amen?